So think about that. Now, what you know, and also you are the embodiment of whatever you know, and then your influence, what influences you, and the things that you influence, and what do you do about who you are. Now, I will tell you that we will not be able to reach the third agenda because of time, but I will make sure we cover the first two. What do you know, and how what you know is who you. That's what you embody as a person. Now now I put this quote there written by David Eagleman. It said, who we are depend heavily on where we've been. Who we are depends heavily on where we've been. Our title is What You Know Makes the Difference. So where do you get those things which you know? Where do you get those things from? Where do you get those information from? So this guy is making us to understand it's all about where have you been in your life, the environment of your nurturing, the environment of your culture, your traditions, the events that you've exposed yourself to. So when he said where we have been in life, is what drives who we are. It's not talking just about the environment as in a physical environment, but what it's important about where we have been that framed and shaped who we are is what we were exposed to in that environment that we were. So think about the environment in which you grew up. What is the culture in your environment? What are the traditions that you grew up with? What are the belief system? What are the events that you exposed yourself to? You say those are the things that makes you who you are today, who are the kind of person I am today. So you can't, when you want to examine your life and say why I am the way I am, why do I speak the language I speak? Why do I interpret things the way I interpret things? Why do I react to things the way I react to things? The question you tell yourself is, all those information that framed and shape you, the patterns that works in your brain, it's something you derive from the environment in which you grew up or wherever you have been in your life. So that's what it's trying to tell us, that who we are depends heavily on where we've been. So when he said where we've been, also you need to understand there are places we've traveled to, there are places we've been mentally and spiritually. So it's not only a physical environment. And I will establish that for you. Now, before read this, and you read that and then think about that, and I will continue to explain this. I'll just what it's trying to tell us there is where you have been reveals what you have been exposed to, right? Where you have been in your life reveals the things you've been exposed to. The culture, your beliefs, your traditions, the events, and then the nurturing that you're exposed to made you who you are today. It's the same thing that makes me who I am today. Your environment forms your principles and also belief system. Now, the same guy who wrote this thing said something. He said about 136 kids those kids were being institutionalized for about 3 years. They said when they examined their IQ, they discovered that they are in their 60s and 70s compared to an average of 100. So what did they conclude? They said they discovered there were signs of underdeveloped brains and the language delayed. Why is that? Because human brain cannot develop normally without an environment with emotional care and the cognitive stimulation. So what is it trying to say? That your environment creates an impact in your brain. Your environment creates an impact in your brain. And however your brain is being impacted, shape the things you do and how you do things and how you see things. And it's going to get more interesting. See, now this is to establish that your environment creates your experience. Whatever experience you exposed to is a function of the environment you've been to. And that experience is what impacts what goes on in your brain. I want you to take note of this. Your environment creates your experience. That experience is what impacts what goes on in your brain. And whatever goes on in your brain is what modulates the knowledge that you exhibit as a person. Now, there are places that you have been mentally. For example, when you're in, maybe when you're in school, at a point in time, you read about history, the Revolutionary War, the Civil War, or something like that. Those things happen like before the 19th centuries or 18th century or something like that. But mentally, you were taken to that battlefield to see the war. And sometimes you can experience those things mentally, and it changes the way you see things. Your whole dynamics about, oh, this is the foundation of this country that I'm growing up at. Oh, there was a civil war, there was a revolutionary war. Oh, there were some villains and there were some heroes. And you begin to see people from different perspectives based on the information that you feed into your brain. Now, I use another example. When you talk about the African American, you're still going to see some African American that are really so emotionally attached to the slavery issue, even though they weren't even born then. Their parents were not even born during the slavery time, but they still feel the story has been told to them, and the impact of the story, they have an emotional connection with that, and they believe that is part of their story. So all those things will leave a kind of a footprint in our mind and in our brain. It's going to alter the way we see things, the way we talk to people, the way we interpret things. So when you see an African American man or somebody, you say, what's wrong with you? Why is your life like this? They might tell you, well, I'm living in a society that doesn't really believe in me. My parents was slaves and stuff like that. This environment is so cruel, it's so tribal, it's so racial. But if it's possible that kind of person might have not experienced any racial issue, but is attached to that story because he went there mentally. He went to that environment of slavery mentally, and that affected and altered what's going on in that person's brain. So do you understand that concept that I just explained?
Yeah.
Yeah, and the same thing, if you understand what this guy said, that everything you've experienced has altered the physical structure of your brain, everything, just not one thing, everything. And he said, from the expression of the genes to the position of molecules to the architecture of neurons, your family origin, your culture, your friends, your work, every movie you watched, every conversation you've had, these have all left their footprint in your nervous system. It said these indelible microscopic impressions accumulate to make you who you are and to constrain who you can become. Now think about this. If I just mention that where you have been also heavily depends, drives who you are today. That means if you travel historically to talk about slave trade, to talk about the Civil War, and you weren't there when it happened, but it has an emotional attachment to people. That means mentally you can also go fast forward into your future. If you have the right information, the right data to know what you want to look like in the future, you can emotionally attach yourself to that picture of the future and create that future that you want to see. The brain doesn't know, maybe you are experiencing it as in physically right now at that point in time, but the brain is just receiving information that you are feeding it. So when you're sitting in the history class and you travel to the Civil War and you're seeing, oh, you felt, well, the South were being traumatized, they killed a lot of soldiers, and you felt that impact. Your brain didn't even know maybe the Civil War is still happening right now. Your brain is feeling the emotion that you are feeding it about the trauma of the war. Do you understand? That's a mental work. So the same thing, if you have the picture of your future in your mind, you have the information, what kind of future you want You can take your brain to that future and create that same scenario, and your brain will be altered based on those information that you are feeding it. So I'm going to move forward. Now, I want you to understand this. The places that you have been mentally and spiritually impacted your life. When he talks about movies that we watch, you weren't part of the movie. You weren't part of those people acting the movie. But you were watching the movie, but it appeals to your emotion. It appeals to your mental state. So that's why when people will watch a romantic movie and after that they feel, okay, I need to get somebody in my life. It's because there's an appeal. There's something that altered in the structure of your brain. That's why some people can watch a violent film, and then I remember when I was young, we watched some Chinese film, and immediately after we finished watching the film, what we want to do, we start fighting kung fu at home. We start fighting kung fu, like kicking the chairs, kicking the sofa, and doing all manner of stuff. We just get energized because we just watched the movie. That's something in our brain has received an information. It triggers something in us. That's exactly what it's saying. And it's saying there's none of this information that just pass by. They actually will leave a mark, a footprint in your brain. So, and I want to move forward. I don't want to spend too much time here. Now, where you have been is important because it shaped who you are and limits who you are yet to become. It shaped who you are currently now, and it also can limit who you want to become in future. Let me explain that to you. The knowledge you have now, the information you've accessed now, is what makes you who you are right now. Now, because that's valid and is genuine to the brain has captured all those pictures. If you're telling your brain now that you want to become somebody in future and your brain haven't received those information, your brain cannot tailor itself to conform to that picture you want to that image you're thinking, except you're fed with some information that it validates. Do you understand that, or you want me to explain it again?
I think I get it.
You sure?
Yeah.
Okay. So I want to become a millionaire, but all the information that I have right now has nothing about being a millionaire in my brain. My brain hasn't seen those signals, those information. There is no kind of information in my brain that shows the pathway to becoming a millionaire. So my brain cannot reconcile with that wish that I'm looking for. So what do? I need to expose myself to the experiences that would tell my brain this is how to be a millionaire, and my brain begin to walk in that path. That's why he's saying that even at this point in time, those experiences that we had before, the movies we watched, the conversation we had, every of those things shaped us. But at the same time, because they shape who we are today, they can also be a constraint to who we want to become tomorrow. He already shaped us and say, well, this is who you are. And then you are saying, okay, I want to become better than this. And your brain is going to say, no, I don't have that information. Those data is not in me to make you, that kind of person you want to be. So you have to remove yourself from this environment that you program in your brain to find the new data that's going to fit into your brain for the place you want to go in future. So you will understand this better as I'll go forward, and then I'll explain more things about this. Now, think about this. I just try to analyze, when you can see the slide, I try to analyze what the guy just talked about, that all those expressions is what shape our brain. So that's our brain, our family origin. We identify, I ask this question, if you can identify 3 beliefs in your family background that shaped you. Sometimes we don't understand those information. We don't know those information. We don't even have a clue that there's something about our family origin that shapes the way our brain, works. We don't even understand that there's something like that, that there's a way, our background affects how we see things. Now, this is my brain. Let's say this is my brain. This is where I am today. This is the information that I have that I'm living with right now. This is my current data. The culture. My culture has been able to imprint an ideology in me. And that culture, that ideology is what influences the way I see things. Okay, the movies that I watch. Oh, I watch some classical, some romantic film. Well, that's the way I interpret the way I need to deal with my girlfriend now because of the movies that I watch. I need to take her to movie and to take her out and then do all the stuff that I'm learning from movie. That's the way I'm going to relate. My parents, if they are not exposed to the kind of romantic movie that I'm watching now, they would not be able to express what I'm expressing right now because we are in different kind of spectrums in life. So the same thing, what kind of song? Think about it. Three of the songs that you've listened to that are really like stuck to your brain. And sometimes you're lying on the bed and you're thinking about those lyrics of those songs. How do those things impact you? You know, there are songs you've listened to when you were in high school and you still have those songs in your brain right now because they stay there. They shape the way you see things. They tell you if you're going to be romantic, if you want to be this, if you want to be lonely, if you want to feel emotional. That's what they do. And what about friends? How do you think your friends have impacted your life? Because whatever information your friends have given to you, those information stuck to your brain. They leave a footprint in your brain. That's why somebody say you cannot be more, above like the five people that you relate with, your average of those five people that you relate with. It's all about what information goes into your brain and alter your brain. And then think about the conversation. What kind of conversation? What do you listen to daily? If you remember and understand that every information that passes into your brain leaves you with an experience, that experience is what shaped your life. So think about who you are right now is just a function of the kind of people you've listened to all of your life. The knowledge you have now is based on the experience you've exposed yourself to, based on the environment in which you find yourself. So wherever you're going in the future, if it's going to be different from where you are right now, you might need to incorporate a new information, a new ideology, a new culture, a new kind of, lifestyle in order to leave new experience into your brain so your brain can be wired in that new pattern. You cannot use this old data, this old information that makes you to be where you are. You can't take this data to transform you to where you want to be in life if where you want to be in life is different from where you are right now. So it's new data, new experience, new lifestyle. Old data, old experience, the same lifestyle. Nothing's going to change. So that's what regulates the knowledge that you have part time. That's what you know. That's who you are. So if you want to know, what you know matters, but what you know is based on what you've been exposed to. Now let me go to, let's say this is the brain of an elite. How do they think? Think about their culture. Think about their family origin, their beliefs in the family, the opportunities available to them. It's always different from some of us. They think differently. They're exposed to different environments. They see things differently. What kind of friends do they have? They have different kind of friends, not the kind of friends we have. They'll go to so I said they go to, in their conversation, they have choice of university, one of the top university. They have choice of location to live. They don't live just anywhere. They say, okay, this is where I want to live. They make their choices. And then they have, the kind of way they have conversation, the kind of conversation they involve in. Their conversation is going to be different from what the kind of conversation we are in our own environment because they live in a totally different environment. So they see themselves, they believe in their own ideology that they are part of the ruling class. They're not going to be looking for a job in McDonald's. They're not going to be looking for a job in Mr. Biggs. They're not even going to think about that. They're going to be thinking of owning a franchise. They might think about that. They're going to be thinking of, owning something bigger. But in our own mindset, well, I'll probably like get a job in somewhere. So that's it. What we have in our brain is totally different. So the knowledge we have is totally different. So I just use that example. Now let me give you the third example. Look at a believer's brain. This is a Christian. When you look at a Christian brain, when you look at his friendship, I want you to understand this concept, why I'm using this concept, because they say what you know makes a whole lot of difference. And the scientists already told us that everything we expose ourselves to leave a footprint there, and those footprints, those information is what shape our life. So a believer, when somebody become a Christian, they begin to teach them about the Word of God. They change their orientation from being earthly minded to being heavenly minded. So the information in his brain begins to transform. They will ask him, you can't work with people that are drinks. So if he had an alcoholic friends, he disassociate from his alcoholic friends. And he begin to find a friend of the same mindset. He begin to find a spirit-filled companion, a spiritually enlightened people become their friend, God-fearing people. Relationship, they changes. The culture of that person changes from his original culture because now he's learning more information from the Bible that tells him he belongs to heaven. So that's a new orientation to change his personality. But before the personality can change, the way the brain is wired needs to change. Before he can move forward to become a new person, he has to change his orientation. But don't forget, he was living a life that is different before. Probably he has, an alcoholic friends before. Probably he has, a mindset that said, well, you can't be a successful person. But now he became a Christian. They gave him a Bible and began to teach him a new concept about life. They want him to be like God. So they expose him to a spiritual environment different from the environment that shaped him before. That's why after some years, you see that person becoming so really spiritual. It is all those transformation. So you can think about those three kind of brains and see that what we know is going to be determined by what we've been exposed to, the environment we found ourselves. Now, you are the embodiment of whatever you know. I'm going to explain this to you. Let's take, for example, you have two baby tigers. They were born from, let's say like 2 weeks old. One was left in the jungle, and the other one was taken to a family house where people are living to train that animal as a pet. But there's the other one that lives in the jungle. There are still two tigers. They are still tiger. They still retain their DNA as a wild animal. But because the one in the jungle grew up fighting and protecting his territory based on his exposure to predators and to other animals and learning how to hunt for food, learning how to protect his territory and do all those things. It lives to become a wild animal that is supposed to be. Now go back to the other tiger that was taken into a family home and was being nurtured. It's being normally they will give them milk and start feeding them with milk, start petting them, and they changes the orientation of that tiger. Even though he has the DNA of a tiger, he begins to see himself as a pet. He's not exposed to that culture of hunting and tearing apart some other animals. He's not exposed to fighting to defend his territory. He's not exposed to become a nocturnal animal. He will not. He will just be in the cave. They will bring the food for the animal whenever. So they've taken away the instinct of of hunting and becoming wild. So now that animal that's been trained at home begin to see itself as a pet. It loses its own ability to become wild. Why? It still have a DNA of a tiger, but it's been exposed to different environment. And those things that he exposed to has wired his brain and set his brain to be in a kind of a different pattern from the one that lives in the jungle. Do you understand that illustration? So that's exactly what happens to us. If I take you away from the environment that you grew up and take you back to like when you were 10 months old and take you to live in another environment, everything you know now will be different when you grow up. The same person, but two different environments. If I take you away from this environment that you grew up, that made you who you are, and take you, let's say, your dad was a president when you were born, and you grew up in that environment, and the way you live, the kind of friends you have is going to be different. The school you attend will be different. The kind of relationship you have will be different. The way you think will be different. How you interpret life will be different. You're still the same person, but I just switch your environment just to explain to us that now, at that point in time, that you live in a very different environment, the who you are, everything you know becomes you. You embody the knowledge that makes you who you are. The same person. So these two tigers, one in the jungle is a wild animal, very, dangerous. He embodies the knowledge of a wild animal because he was nurtured in that environment. He knows the knowledge he embodies, the knowledge to hunt, the knowledge to kill other animals, the knowledge to protect his territory. While this other tiger that is placed in the home, the only knowledge he embodies is to be nurtured as a pet. He wants somebody to cuddle it. He wants somebody to give it food. He cannot hunt any way because the environment has been different. So now, two tigers, two different environments, they embody the knowledge of the environment in which they grew up. Even though they have the same DNA, but they will not be the same kind of animal. They will be different in their orientation. So whatever difference is that they have, that's the knowledge they embody, and that's who they will be as a kind of tiger. That's the kind of tiger they will be. One will be a pet, walking around with people. The other one, you dare not get close to that animal because it's going to tear you to pieces. So that's what happened to us. Now I said to buttress this point further, what do you think? The people that now control our society, I believe they know something that we don't understand. So when you look at the left side, maybe your left side of the slide, you see I put in the George Bush family there. So the George Bush family, George Bush, W.H. Bush, which is a father, was a vice president for 8 years during the terms of Ronald Reagan. He was a vice president of the United States. He lives in the White House and works in the White House for 8 years. And after that 8 years, he became the president. And he also became a president, and he was president for 4 years. That's a total of 12 years. One man ruled the nation for 12 years. Then after that, his son became the president, and he was in White House for 8 years. So a father and a son, both of them together ruled this nation for 20 years, 2 decades. I want you to tell me that they know something different that other people don't know. Definitely, they know something different. That family personifies a body of knowledge that keeps creating that opportunity for them. They sculpture their ideology and pursue certain knowledge, relationship, environment that created that niche for them to rule this country for 2 decades. It's not because they just went to one school, but there's a certain body of knowledge that they, expose themselves to that make them to understand, I can rule this country. And then the son also say, I can do the same thing that my dad did. So they embody a kind of knowledge that took them to the White House and sustained them as a president. In a nation of over 300 million people, one family ruled for 2 decades. So they know something. So what I'm trying to say is what they know is what makes a difference from other families. So what we know makes an entire difference in whatever we want to achieve in life. Now think about this too. We have 2,816 billionaires in the entire world, which total money is about 11.2 trillion. And then we have 46.8 million millionaires in the world. Tell me those guys, they know something that other people that are poverty stricken doesn't know. They know something. 2,000 people control 11.2 trillion. That's much more than what some other countries have as the total wealth of a nation. Some other nations don't have up to that. But just some individuals, what do they know? And I'm telling you, whatever they know becomes what they embody as a person. They are the embodiment of that knowledge that makes them to become that millionaire. So anything you know at a particular point in time is that exactly what you embody. Do you have any question?
No.
All right, let me go back to the slide, to that other slide. I'm not. Now let me explain some. Just give a little bit illustration. So what you know is who you are at any given period. Whatever you know is who you are at any given period. What do I mean by that? 5 years ago, the things that you know, the knowledge that you have is different from what you have now. 5 years ago, the knowledge that you have is who you are. Now, the difference between who you are 5 years ago and now is the new knowledge that you've been able to explore as a person. The way you think is different from some of the way you think 5 years ago. So at any point in time, what you know is who you are at any given point in time. So that also takes us to, you cannot operate above the knowledge that you have. You cannot operate above the knowledge that you have. And this is where we talk about capacity. No one can be more successful beyond the level of knowledge they operate. You cannot operate, let's say, $1 billion industry with the knowledge of a $10,000 managerial skill. If you have a knowledge, if like the knowledge you have right now is just good enough to manage a $10,000 industry, there's no way you can manage $1 billion industry with that same knowledge. No, you can only operate the knowledge you have per time. If you want to go higher than where you are right now, you have to acquire more knowledge to give you the capacity to be able to operate in a higher level. That's why you can't ask a kid that is in third grade to come to take a test for you. You're an engineering student. It's not going to happen because that kids only have the knowledge and can operate in a third grade level knowledge. So to ask a kid that is in third grade to take your exam, it's not going to happen. He can't operate. He's a kid of third grade level. He operates a third grade knowledge, except he's been exposed to that kind of knowledge that you're asking him to operate at. So that's why you cannot operate above your knowledge. If you right now, as we are here, if we have the knowledge that is adequate for us to operate as a billionaire, we will never be in this position. The reason we are not billionaires right now is because we have not been able to fathom the knowledge that will take us to that level. We're still building that concept. The day we acquire that knowledge, the day we will never be the same again. So right now, we operate at the knowledge of what we know. That's who we are right now. So I can't call you a billionaire right now because you are not one right now, because your knowledge is not there. But the day your knowledge is at that level, that day your status changes and you discover you're a billionaire. Why are you called a billionaire? It's not because your complexion changes. It's not because your eye changed. It's because your knowledge per time has transformed you to attain that new level. So it's about knowledge, what you know. At the same time, what you know, your life reflects your knowledge. Your life reflects your knowledge. If you look around you, your current status is nothing but the level of the knowledge you have and the way you see things in your mind. That's where your current status is. When you acquire more knowledge and your perspective changes, the way you live will change. Success in life takes clue from the knowledge that individual has. You are not operating above your knowledge. You're operating based on what you know right now. And that's exactly what your life reflects. Your life reflects your knowledge at this particular point in time. So your life reflects exactly your knowledge, and that is the strength of your capability. Now, this is very important. I'm going to say this, and I think I'll stop very soon after this. Now, this is a very sincere question. The question now is, what do you know as a person? What do you know? What do I know? Have you been able to sit down and ask yourself the question, what do I know as a person? Do I have some knowledge somewhere that is like, what's $1 billion that I'm really keeping somewhere that I'm not going to expose? Nobody knows that now. Do I have a knowledge right now that can influence my society but I don't want anybody to know about it right now. Or everything I know is just the way I operate right now. What do you know? Have you been able to evaluate your knowledge as a person? Have you been able to say, this is the level of my knowledge, this is the level of my ideology, and this is why my life is at this level? And then if you can, answer that sincere question, you'll be able to say, okay, what knowledge do I need to acquire to get to the place that I need to go to if I don't have that knowledge that I needed? So you are not expected to know everything under the sun. That's not what we're saying. But you need the knowledge necessary for the future you desire, and the knowledge of how to approach the world situation. And everything is changing in the world right now. So it is nothing like now the future we're going to is nothing like we've imagined before. Everything is changing, and you're going to be surprised when in 5 years time you're going to be so amazed, like, wow. Now, in order for you not to like, whoa, I'm really like, I don't even know what to do now. Whatever you know must be adequate to deal with the uncertain realities of the future. That's the kind of knowledge you want to acquire now. That's the kind of weight principles you want to understand now. I need a knowledge that is adequate enough to deal with the uncertain realities of the future. So what you need is a source of knowledge where you can always access ideas that get answers to the future challenges. So I'm saying now, you have to understand that there is a body of knowledge that you have to have the key and entrance and access to. That concept must be able to modify, help you to build a principle that can face the challenges of the future. And why am I saying that? Success in the future will not be defined by academic knowledge or the ability to earn a good income. No. Those with the inside knowledge of the times and those who have the foresight for the future occurrence will be the one who will provide solution to the society, and they will be the one to rule the society. I'm going to say it again. Success in the future will not be defined by the academic knowledge or the ability to earn a good income. Those with the inside knowledge of the times and those who have the foresight for the future occurrence will be the solution providers, and they will rule the society. You must understand principles that will work for you. And then those principles will help the work in different situations and how to manipulate them at any given period. So I'll give this illustration and I'm going to stop. If you know how to make $1 million today, if you know how to make $1 million today, you have to also be able to retain not that $1 million that you make today, but you have to be able to retain the knowledge, the concept of how to make that $1 million in when you are in a different environment. So a good example, if you earn $1 million, you are a millionaire. Yes, good. But the advantage of making $1 million is not just about the money, but the knowledge, not the money, the knowledge. So, and the principle that created the $1 million, it is your ability to retain the knowledge of recreating and reinventing yourself at any given time, regardless of the variables and uncertainties. So if I can make $1 million today, that I have the knowledge to make $1 million today, I'm a millionaire. That knowledge is what I embody. That's what I know. That's what makes difference in my life. But am I able to retain the concept of this knowledge to be able to, reinvent the same in 10 years? Do I understand how this concept come together to be able to help me even where there are variables, even where things are not the same? So that's why I talked about success in the future will not be defined by academic knowledge or the ability to earn a good income, but those with inside knowledge of the times and those who have the foresight for the future occurrence will be the solution provider, and they will be the one that will rule the society. That's very important. So what you know is what will make the difference. And I've been able to explain to you like all those things that we expose ourselves to, how the things we experience, the environment, the things we embody, that's who we are, and that's what we know. So for us to move further in the future, we need to find the new data so that our brain could receive more different exposure that's going to really fit into the future that we want to go to. So I'm going to stop here, and then any other time we're going to continue based on whatever time you're going to have. I don't want to take too much of your time. So next time I'm going to continue on how what you know influence your circle of friendship, and how also you influence other people based on what you know. Because people will be attracted to you based on what they see in you. And also you too, you'll be attracted to people based on what is inside of you. So for example, if we go to the mall and you see three ladies and you say, oh, I like the one in the middle. Why did you pick that one in the middle? Why not the one on the extreme right or the extreme left? The way you make your decision is based on those information that already been imprinted in your brain. Your brain is already accustomed to a pattern. So that's why you're able to say, I want the one in the middle. It might be based on the features of the person. It may be based on the height. It may be based on what the person has said. So that data is in your brain is what you know. And that's what determines the decision you make and how you that influences your life. And that's what determines who you're attracted to and who is attracted to you. So I will talk about that one next time. I don't want us to stop here and then talk about if you have questions or something you want me to go back to.
Could you scroll back like 2 slides, I think?
Okay.
So where the another one? Yeah, that one. No, go back to your brain. One of the questions.
Which other one?
Forward, I think.
Okay.
One more.
One.
That one.
One more.
No, the one before that one.
One more.
Okay, now I'm lost. It was on where it says your brain before the elite's brain.
Oh, okay. Yeah, your brain before the elite brain. This is it.
That one.
Okay.
Okay. Just wanted to see what the questions were for each one.
Yeah, actually, I want us to like really tackle this question and see. This is trying to say I want to get to the bottom of really being able to pinpoint what actually has been influencing my life for as long as I know. So I said believes in the family, and I know the way we believe things in my family is different from where the elites believe things in their family. And if you go to a family of an elite, they will say, well, my kids are going to go to Harvard. They talk like that. But I've never thought about, I need to go to Harvard or my kids need to go to Harvard because my dad didn't go to Harvard. I don't think like that. You know, it's the, the way we are raised, our environment. You say the family origin. And then we're talking about the culture too. Also the background they have. If your dad, that's why I use the example of George Bush. The father was the vice president for 8 years, and he became a president for 4 years. It was easy. It would be easy for the son to also say, "Well, I understand my dad has been the president in this United States. How does it work?" That's the background. That's some of the things that they're exposed to. They are not new in that arena because that's their normal. They've created that environment based on the knowledge of what they've imprinted in their brain. Does that make sense? So the battle that we are fighting is just to be able to change our own orientations and our own. Now we understand all those things is affecting us. We understand all those things is what make us who we are today. But if all those things is not going to support where we are going, how do we remove this information or feed ourselves with the new information? And that's exactly what we're doing here. So these classes is for us to expose the things that made us who we are, and we want to evaluate, is it the same information will take me to where I want to go to? If I have three friends, if those three friends are not millionaires, if their parents are not millionaires, and our conversation does not look like somebody that want to earn millions in future, that means that's the knowledge. I'm going to relegate myself to the knowledge of never being a millionaire because of my relationship, my friends, my culture. But if I want to change my brain and to think different, I have to expose myself to a new ideology that's going to change the way I see things. I have to expose myself to a new relationship, to a new set of people that think the way, I want to, they will be thinking like the future that I'm going to, that's where I want to see people think like that. I don't want to just stay around people just think about, well, this is all I want to do. I'm just going to have my degree and then work at McDonald's. No, I don't want to think like that. I want to meet people who say, well, I'm trying to buy an airport. I'm trying to buy a aircraft. Their mindset is going to be different from somebody who said, I want to work at McDonald's. This is totally different, concept. That means the brain is wired differently. I have to find friends that talk like I talk, that think like I think. And that's why I could spend 5 hours talking to a friend because I know it's going into the same direction that I'm going to. And one of the things it challenges me with is say, hey, we don't need to start talking too much about those things. We need to start acting on those things. Now we need to find some businesses. We need to find these. It challenges me and it tells me, well, yesterday we're still talking about, all right, how much did you invest in this? I'll say, okay, this and this. All right, how much is this that you want to buy in a license to have a currency exchange business and things like that? We were talking about stuff like that. We're not talking about, well, you want to go to somewhere. No, we have to think big because we know that these are the issues. This is what makes us who we are. So if we understand this is what makes us who we are, all we need to do is find the information that is required to take us to where we're going and begin to think in that way, expose ourselves to those kind of information. And that's why I use that illustration for you guys all the time. If you never thought about going to college, you will never find yourself at UTEP. If you never thought about education, you will never be where you are today. If you've never find somebody telling you about school, you will never be where you are today. But now you are where you are today based on the information and the knowledge that you're exposed to. For you to go into a better place, you have to find a different knowledge that is going to raise you higher into that level. So that's all what all this is about. I think we have some questions and we have to deliberate on some things.
I don't think I have any more questions. Just
Okay.
thinking about the questions. I'm I'm thinking of what I know or questioning what I know.
Okay. So, like when you look at the the same slide we have in front of us, the last um, the last highlight that talks about conversation. So, I said, what do you listen to daily, and how are their words impacting you? Are they communicating the concept that builds you up for greatness? You remember, everything that we listen to and expose ourselves to leave a mark in our brain and alter the structure of our brain. So I'll tell you something. Let me tell you something. See, and this is how, because I want you to understand how this works. Now, when I wake up in the day, see, this is what I feed my brain with, because I understand this concept and I'm going to teach it later. Every single day is like an opportunity to sow a seed, to invest into your brain. Every single day, you have an opportunity to invest into your brain. You have an opportunity to tell your brain, this is the direction that I want you to go to. And don't forget that the information that goes into your brain is the pattern in which your brain understands. And that information is what becomes the knowledge that you embody. And that the knowledge you embody is the way you live, and that's what you know. And what you know is what makes a difference. So when I wake up in the day, I have to say this to myself. I'll say, today I'm going to create something new. But I'm talking to my brain because my brain needs to investigate and channel things. So I'm going to say to myself, like my kind of a prayer that I pray today, I'm going to gain new understanding of all things, and I'm going to gain new understanding in all things. So, two different things. So, when I study, I'm looking for a scope of understanding. Then I'm looking at individual concept and going deep into individual concept to understand how does it relate. And I also, so I read this, I wrote this out in my every day I read this. Not only try to memorize it, but to understand and to feed my brain with this concept. So that I'll tell myself that I have to, acquire more wisdom in order to understand how to translate the invisible into visible, because I know ideas are from the realm of the invisible. But when I capture the idea, I need the wisdom to be able to change the idea to the visible that it can be relatable. So, and I talked about, and I said, today there's going to be opportunities to learn something new. There's going to be opportunity to make a call, to have a conversation. So every opportunity that I have today, I need to make the best of it. So I tell myself that, so I need opportunity that I can actualize, that can transform into something significant. So I don't want to waste my time with opportunity that is not going to help me. And I tell myself. So the third thing that I talk to myself about every day is, today, I have to cultivate my field. My field is the area of my gifts and my potential. So every day I tell myself, Sam, you have to work on your potential today, because I understand your gift is what will make you to be relevant in life. And people will know you for your gifts. They don't know you because of your complexion or because of your accent. People will know you for the gift. And until you master your gift does not become prominent or to take you into the place where you're being acknowledged for what you know. So I'll tell myself, I said, today you have to cultivate your field. You have to understand, work on your potential, work on your trade, work on your stuff. So I tell myself, cultivate my field, master my craft. And then because I want to become the voice of reasoning for my generation. And I'll tell that to myself. So I'm feeding my brain with this information. I'm taking my brain mentally to this future that I want for myself. Because this is practical. This is practical. Just like you sit down and you watch a movie, and you finish watching the movie and you feel the emotion of the movie in you because you store those information in your brain. You might finish watching a movie and decided to call somebody because of what you saw in the movie. And you might say, hey, do you want to go out for lunch? Because you watched the movie and the movie appealed to emotion. So the same thing, whatever I want to see in my day, I make sure it appeals to my emotion. I'll speak to my emotion. I'll talk to myself. That's where you're going to, because this is going to connect you to the future you're looking for. So every day is an opportunity to invest in yourself. It's not going to happen if we think it's just going to happen by itself. No, no, you have to create that environment, mental environment, spiritual environment that will support where you want to go to. So that's the way it is. So your conversation, what do you listen to daily? Do you speak to yourself? How are the words impacting you? How are they, whoever you speak to, how do they communicate the concept that builds up, the greatness that you want to achieve in life? So just like you go to school, you listen to your lecturers, and they build you inside of your brain. They build knowledge for you to become whatever profession you want to be. You listen to the lecturer for 4 years, and at the end of the day, you read those books. Those books changes you. The same thing. So if there is school for millionaires, you're enrolled in the school for millionaires, and it's going to take you 4 years. And that means everything they have to teach you has to be what your brain needs to accept in the process and pattern of becoming a millionaire. So it's the knowledge that we acquire that makes the difference. So that's why I was citing all these examples. All right. There's always a school for whatever we want to learn. So an accountant will not going to go to an engineering class to become an accountant. An engineer will not go to a liberal art class to become an engineer. No, because what the body of knowledge is different. An accountant is going to go to an accounting class, and his body of knowledge will define who he is. He'll become an accountant. An engineer will go to an engineering class, will be exposed to physics, chemistry, and all those maths and stuff like that. And that becomes the body of the knowledge that he has, and he become an engineer. And that's how people become specialized in one area, and they become that thing. The same thing. If I want to become great in life, I need to go to the class that teaches about greatness. And that concept becomes what I embody. And what I embody is who I am. It's as simple as that. But I just need to find where those knowledge are so that I can, you know, create that environment for myself. All right. If you still have questions, I'm still here.
Well, it's not a question, just letting you know. I think I work on Friday, but I think
Okay.
I might be missing on again on this Friday's meeting.
Oh, no problem. I'll be so much delighted to take you again anytime. Just tell me when you're going to be free. If it's going to be Tuesdays like this, it doesn't bother me. In
They've
as
been
much,
giving me the week schedule on a weekly basis, so I won't know till Saturday when I'll be free again for next week.
okay. Yeah, it doesn't matter. Just tell me. Once you have your
Okay.
schedule and you feel, all right, I need to get one of my weekly class from Sam. Just tell me, hey, Sam,
Mm.
I'm going to be, and I say, okay, I would be so delighted to take you on the class all the time.
All right.
All right. Thank you for your time. I hope I'm not taking too much of your time today.
Oh no, I like these conversations.
You like it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I'm so glad you said you like it. You know. So yeah,
So,
I don't want to say too much. But you know what we had on Friday when we had this class. After the class, and we just started going into normal conversation with my friends and the rest of the people that came, and we start talking about just the general thing, like personal interpretations that we have for all those things. How do we interpret things? How does this lesson apply to us individually? How do we see things, and how does the past affected us, and how do we get to where we are? And we were like talking about so many different things. So it was really fun, especially when you have people coming and they have different ideas and they're saying, okay, what about this? What about that? If I want to become this and I end up becoming this, why did I get there? What's the mistake? What should I need to do? And we actually learn a lot from there. So
cool. Wow, was Diamond involved too?
Diamond is like, she has to go. Diamond has to go. The first,
Oh,
the previous week she was involved. The previous week she was involved because I was, she was involved, and she said she liked those questions too because it really like show us some other side and other things and But the last week she
mhm.
wasn't there; she had to leave. But I'll tell you, you know, it's an interesting concept. All right, I don't want to. I'm always very conscious of you guys' time. I don't always want